watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. In a landmark verdict, the Madras High Court has ruled that it is open for a Muslim woman to exercise her inalienable right to dissolve a marriage by Khula, which are divorce proceedings initiated by a wife, by approaching a family court and not private bodies such as a Shariat council. The High Court ruled that private bodies cannot pronounce or certify the dissolution of a marriage by Khula as they are not courts or arbitrators of disputes. The court ruled on a writ petition by a man who sought the quashing of a Khula certificate issued to his wife in 2017 by a Shariat council. The court ruled that Khula certificates issued by private entities are invalid. It directed the petitioner that his wife should approach the Tamil Nadu Legal Services Authority or a family court to resolve their disputes. Now, many activists have hailed the move, calling it a push towards legal uniformity and a blow to regressive personal laws. First, let me explain to you what Khula is. It is the process where a wife initiates divorce proceedings in Muslim marriages. Wife needs to list reasons in a form to the Shariat council as to why she wants divorce from her partner or husband. Council then holds mediation between these two parties, tries to ensure that they can come together on the talking table. Both parties, that is the husband and the wife, have an option of receiving marital counseling. Joint meeting allows parties to air grievances and identify issues, and then talks on terms of separation on failure to reach a resolution. And if husband consents, then Shariat council issues a divorce certificate. Remember, this is a right which is with a Muslim woman, that she can take Khula or go in for separation from her husband. But if the husband refuses, then Shariat council issues maximum of 4 notices. And if no resolution after 4 notices, then council issues divorce certificate. Now, many argue that the Madras High Court verdict perhaps has opened a Pandora's box. Why are we saying that? First, it has set precedent of holding Shariat council invalid. What happens to all the other decisions of inheritance, marriage, and other decisions that are taken by Shariat council? And decisions by Muslim bodies can be overturned by law. So personal laws versus the law of the land, that's what we are seeing here. But there is also equality for both men and women in eyes of the law. Perhaps that is what is needed at this hour, and sets stage for debate on need for a uniform law. Is there a need for a uniform civil code? Perhaps increasingly we realize, yes, it is. However, there has been a consistent legal conundrum over personal laws. And this is what the Kerala High Court ruled in October 2022, because there has been a series of verdicts by multiple courts of India where we see that the personal laws have been overruled by the court of the day. Why and what does it, where is it all heading? Let's not forget what the Kerala High Court ruled in October 2022, where it said that marriage with minor Muslim girls violates POCSO, and rightly so, it does. But the same court also ruled in 2022 that Khula, that the decision of a Muslim woman to separate from her husband, is absolute and not subject to her husband's will. That is what also Shariat says. And the Karnataka High Court, that was what the Kerala High Court had said. We are looking at the Karnataka High Court judgment, which in October 2022 annulled a pregnant Muslim minor's marriage. It ruled that POCSO overrides personal laws. But in October 2022, there is another court. This is Punjab and Haryana High Court, which ruled that on turning 15, Muslim girls can marry whoever they choose. 15, that age 15. What is the age in India? Very different from this one. In fact, the Delhi High Court in August 2022 ruled that a minor girl who attains puberty can marry without parental consent under Muslim laws. So a legal consensus on the issue is still missing. When it comes to a debate between personal laws and uniform laws, the question then remains, can there be a balance? Joining me on the show, Geeta Luthra, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court. We have Rahul Ishwar, author and activist, Atikur Rahman, Islamic scholar, Ahmed Ayaz, former Secretary of All India Muslim Personal Law Board, also Zeenat Shaukat Ali, Director General of Wisdom Foundation. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, increasingly we are seeing courts entering into domain of personal laws. If you look at multiple verdicts that have come from multiple courts, they are clearly saying that personal laws are not keeping pace with changing times, and hence the law of the land must prevail.
I think, thank you for inviting me to the show, and I think that this particular judgment that has come has to be extremely welcomed, and it is a very important judgment that has to be looked into. And when we say that the courts have intervened, they have intervened because the Muslim women have gone to the courts and have sought justice. If you look at Sharia Banu, if you look at right down from Sharia Banu to Sharia Banu and the other cases, it is Muslim women who have approached courts for justice, and it is the courts that have given Muslim women justice. As a matter of fact, the very commendable judgment that was given by the Kerala High Court, as far as the rights of the Muslim woman to Khula is concerned, were never really established by the Sharia law as they should have been. It actually was the right of the Sharia court to establish that a woman had the absolute right to divorce her husband. When we had the two very clear cases that have been quoted of Baria and of Jamila, who had approached the Prophet. As a matter of fact, Baria was a lady who wanted to divorce her husband, and her husband loved her, and he used to follow her in the streets of Medina. This is what the hadith is saying, with tears in his eyes. But when she said she wanted a divorce, the Prophet granted it to her, and therefore the Kerala High Court very correctly ruled that it is the right of the Muslim woman to, not to ask or to beg or to plead, but to get a divorce on equal grounds because she's an equal partner in a marriage.
Okay.
And so
I can see Geeta Luthra as well. Geeta Luthra, increasingly, if you look at the Kerala High Court, which has, of course, passed this judgment this time around, multiple orders of 1 of November 2022, which has actually said that POCSO Act overrides Muslim personal law. Kerala High Court October 2022 judgment that Khula is absolute and not subject to husband's will. This is also what the Shariat says. Karnataka High Court judgment, and increasingly we are seeing some kind of back and forth which is happening between personal laws and the law of the land. Many would say that this is a fit case for uniform civil code.
So, of course, see, there are aspects of uniform civil code that are important. I, for one, have always been saying that for certain common parameters, there should be a uniform civil code. For example, right to inheritance with regard to, for women as well as men, it can't be unequal. It can't be unequal if you want a divorce. Now, there are aspects. In Hindu law, for example, marriage is sacred, it's considered non-contractual. In Muslim law, it is contractual. So there will be certain parameters which may reflect the religious ethos. But the question of equality is something which the Uniform Civil Code will address, and that's why it's very important.
Okay. Ma'am, you make that question of uniformity or gender equality, because, if in this particular case, many would see this, if the woman has taken a call unilaterally and gone in for Khula, then why should her, right given by Islam be not seen as acceptable to the court? And in the court, why should she go through the entire process and her marriage be contested when she has taken a decision of walking out of that marriage? My question then to you, Atikur Rahman, would be that Sharia was never frozen. Sharia was also supposed to change with changing times. Do you think that has become a problem, and that is the reason why we are seeing increasingly, triple talaq? What has happened with triple talaq? It was declared null and void only because Muslim Personal Law Board and the Muslim bodies in India did not realize that for a modern society such as ours, for a democracy such as ours, it was not needed.
Yeah.
Fine,
See,
Maria, you see, the
I
only reason,
Ji, Atikur Rahman sahab, go ahead.
only reason for the only reason I find for the survival of the Sharia courts is the tedious process our constitutional courts are having, and the long amount of pendency. Otherwise, as far as I have observed in our society, none of the Muslims want eagerly that their disputes should be settled by the Sharia courts. Primarily, I am of the opinion that we are not hoping for any justice in the Sharia court. The Sharia court is only for an amicable solution or a rapprochement between the two families or the husband and the wife. Otherwise, we are not expecting any justice. Justice can only be delivered by a constitutional court.
Okay.
And for this particular
No, but
case,
then why
Maria,
are you
we
saying,
need to
Atiq
the-
Saab, that it has become irrelevant? Because you are essentially saying that these courts, the Shariat councils, are irrelevant now.
As far as the cities are concerned, Maria, there are no Sharia courts. Some organizations, they organize, some mufti is sitting over there and they call for disputes. And very unwillingly people go over there. This is my observation. Even if willingly they are going there, justice cannot be expected in a Sharia court. Because only the purpose of the Sharia court, Maria, is for a rapprochement process between the husband and the wife. They want to save the marriage. And if there is a dispute, the mufti says the husband is right and the wife is wrong, they are open to go to the constitutional courts. They cannot be compelled to stick to the mufti's argument or the ruling. This is a general perspective of a Sharia court.
So you are saying
it is
that
irrelevant.
Shariat courts
Yeah.
have this attitude, Ahmad Ayaz, according to Atikur Rahman, and I tend to agree with him on this, that they are looking for rapprochement. But if a wife has made up her mind and she is looking for a solution, then should she approach a court of this nature? Because if anything, even in this particular case, the husband has challenged it through the writ petition.
See, as it is in every religious, they have their personal, what you call it, laws. So likewise, though I am not aware about how it works in other with other religion, but so far as Islam is concerned, it has a set procedure, a well laid down procedure as to how to deal an issue and well defined and clear cut procedures given for everything, not only in case of marriages, divorces, law, inheritances, everything it's laid down. But the point is how well read is a Muslim to see that he applies all the rules of its own. Well, that being perhaps a difficulty. Otherwise, if Muslims are well read about it, and I don't think they would need any second or third person to go about and seek their advice.
Point that is being made here, Ahmad Ayaz, that bodies such as Muslim Personal Law Board here in India, which was so far seen as custodians of the Muslim laws, or the laws that are governing the Muslims all over the world, particularly in India. Let's look at India specific.
No, it's
Those
not
bodies
that.
are becoming
It is not the Muslim Personal Boards. No, it is not the Muslim Personal Boards which are the custodian of the laws. The laws are for every individual. So far as personal laws are concerned, those are for every individual. Now, what happens in the process, sometime when there are difficulties arising between the community on various issues, then of course the Maulanas, Muftis, whatever.
But that is subject to interpretation.
Whatever is available.
But that is subject to interpretation. What we are seeing.
Not interpretation.
No, that is subject to interpretation. Let me give you a small example. What we have seen as far as inheritance is concerned, we know what is the division between a girl child and a male child in Islam. But when it is just one boy and a son, a boy and a girl, then how do you distribute the wealth between the two of them? So that is also subject of interpretation. Whether it
That
should
also is well defined.
it's not
No,
defined.
no, sorry, Shakil, that also is well defined. That also is well defined. What should be the part of the girl or what should be
Ahmad
part of
Ayaz
the
Saab, we
boy.
know what is
That's also well
happening
defined.
across India.
What is happening
How
is different.
inheritance
What is happening
in
is
the
different.
name of,
Wait.
in the name of passing legacy to your child, to a son, how women do not have right over inheritance. We have
difficulties.
seen what is happening. I've seen it within my own
Maria,
community
there are
and within my
difficulties.
own relatives. So let's not put this charade that
Maria,
that the book is being followed here. One moment.
Absolutely.
Rahul Ishwar.
Absolutely.
Rahul
Maria,
Ishwar.
that
No, Rahul Ishwar. No, you are making a
Arrange
problematic argument.
just two submissions.
Huh.
One, there are 2 or 3 critical positions regarding uniformity. One is a liberal position, let us say, which says homogenize. Generally, nationalists also agree with it. There is a conservative position which says, let nobody touch our religion. That can be in every community. Then there is a centrist approach like RSS Sarsang Chalak, Guruji Golwalkar, who says, let reform come from within. These are broadly the 3 parameters or paradigms in which the personal laws are generally seen in India. So there is always, for example, the Law Commission under Modi government itself said there is no need for a uniform civil code. That's a perspective. But there are many people who actively vouch for a uniform civil code. But here there are 2 or 3 questions. How can we reconcile religious laws with a modern government or a modern democratic nation is one question. Second, no religion should feel violated. No religion should feel invaded. No religion should feel any kind of invasion from the secular government. So we need to keep some kind of a balance. Maintaining that balance is very critical to the uniform civil code debate. Let us have diversity, but let us have some common ground.
Are you then saying that there is more, tinkering or invasion, the word that you used, largely with Muslim personal laws? Rahul?
I mean, any law for that matter. See, I'm a conservative Hindu. I understand the sentiments of our Muslim brothers. I myself is a conservative person, so I can respect and understand. But at the same point of time, we need some common ground so that we all agree on. We need some kind of commonality and agreement and harmony, that without invading. So it's a very tricky question. Baba Sahib Ambedkar grappled with it. Nehruji grappled with it. There are various thinkers, even in the Constituent Assembly debates. Our Muslim brothers were seeking some kind of an assurance that it will not violate Article 25 or what is presently Article 25, the right to faith. So it's a tricky question, but just one submission. It would be unfair for our courts to apply POCSO and punish those people, because these youngsters who are going to get married are doing so under the will and wish of their parents. So there is no point in
of course
punishing
it
a
should be
guy
applied.
who has married.
They should be punished. No, Rahul,
I'm
I'm in complete disagreement with you. These parents should be punished under POCSO if they do not realize that their children are not ready for this kind of arrangement. That a marriage, which Muslim marriage, which is supposed to be contractual, should not be entered in. Let's not forget what Sharia says. No. Quran is very clear. It says that both the man and the woman should be aware of their rights in this contract. Muslim marriage is a contract between 2 individuals who understand the ramifications of this contract. Geeta Luthra. Geeta Luthra?
what Ishwar, should
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to respond to Ishwar.
So, of course, in answer to what has been just said, should it be punishable under POCSO when, in fact, their personal law permits it? This is a very vexed question. In fact, on behalf of National Commission of Women, we've gone to the Supreme Court in this. There is yet one other writ petition which has been, SLP, which has been filed both against the Punjab-Haryana judgment as well as the Delhi judgment. Now the issue then is, if somebody does something innocently, should they get bail? They are not talking in terms of is it illegal, should they be punished under POCSO, not punished, because unless you are raising awareness that this becomes a POCSO offense, people are going for it because they are feeling the Muslim personal law is there. But POCSO will override that Muslim personal law. So, as a result, I think people need to be educated, people need to be made aware that they may not be incurring criminal liability, which is a very strict criminal liability under POCSO, if they don't realize that these
Yes.
penal laws
Ma'am,
are
you're making that point.
having
Then-
a precedence. Yes.
Yes, because you are saying that these laws have precedent over. Complete your point, ma'am.
So, over personal laws.
Okay.
So, I'm just saying that POCSO will have precedence over personal laws, and because there is it's a later enactment. It is also codified because they are trying to ensure that a child, whether man, whether girl or boy, is not abused, even if it is with consent of elders or whatever. So, unless you educate people that they realize that what they are doing is wrong,
Okay.
and that
since you are saying that there has to be a
part
need,
of the
there is a
issue
need for
that is
generating
being raised.
awareness. That is the reason why I want to understand from you, Ahmed Ayaz. It's very clear that private bodies such as Shariat Council can now pronounce or certify dissolution of marriage by Khula. That is what the Kerala High Court verdict is. Increasingly, we are seeing, be it that POCSO Act overrides Muslim Personal Law Board and Muslim Personal Law, and rightly so. If you marry a minor, and that is the way it should be, then my question is, shouldn't All India Muslim Personal Law Board and all such bodies be open to changes? Why don't you take the first step in dissolving these?
No, I tell you, no, that's what I was going to tell you, that Muslim bodies are not themselves to interpret certain things. The Quran itself is very clear about as to how to deal the issues as are confronting, like the divorces and inheritances laws of India. All this is very clear. The point is that the Muslims themselves need to be acquainted with the laws. They need to be acquainted with the Quran itself, so that then they may not need
No,
to
but what about
seek interference
this
from anybody.
that a girl,
sometimes
if she attains puberty, should be married off? It was said and written at a time which was very different, centuries ago.
no, that's what I'm telling you, that as long as Muslims are well versed about the Quran and the Islam, then situations will not arise like this.
I'm
Now,
not
why
too sure it is
situations,
about being well versed.
arise
Atikur Rahman,
because-
30 seconds to you, and then the final words to, I'll give the final word to Zina Shaukat Ali.
Yeah. No, Maria, justice and equality was the way of the Prophet.
Huh.
When a very pertinent question of Khula came before the Prophet asked the wife who was seeking Khula that, are you ready to give back all the gifts your husband has, showered upon you? She said, yes, I am ready to give. Equality is maintained. If there are no rapprochement between the couple, the equality aspect cannot be hidden by any minority rights. Article 25. We are a patriarchal and a misogynist society. Then the legal courts are only the last refuge of a woman.
Absolutely,
If
Atikur
you
Rahman,
violate
I'm
the rights
glad
of
that
the
you have
woman,
made this
she is
point
bound
that
to go to
Muslim
the open
society
court.
increasingly is patriarchal and anti-women. Let's be clear about it. There's no doubt, absolutely. Yes, Zina Shaukat Ali.
Yeah, and what I need to say is that you see the main contention and the basis of the Quran is adl or justice, which has never been implemented. The triple talaq has never been part of the Quran, and yet it has been a practice law for 75 years in this country till we had to fight to overcome it. And who did it? It was the secular courts, and it was the Muslim women who went to the secular courts. So let's be very, very clear on these aspects that no courts are looking for anything but justice, and so minor marriages are also not permissible. All over the world these changes have taken place, and they have taken place by the by the understanding of the Sharia. The second thing that I need to say, as far as the Uniform Civil Code is concerned, we keep bringing these impediments in the way. But if you look at I think the year 1860, when when the British were making a uniform criminal law, and when the laws were laid down, there was absolutely no objection. The criminal
Criminal laws from civil
were
perspective
made
are different.
criminal laws were made practical for practice for all religions, and today there was no hue and cry created about it, because the end of it was justice. So
No, but is
similarly
this
today,
justice?
I don't see
Is
why we-
equality justice? Certainly it is, and it may
Justice is
seem,
the-
as far as gender argument would be, that if woman has gone for khula, why should she be approaching the law of the land or the court of India
Absolutely.
for justice? But then in the long run, it should be seen from the point of view that this is law over gender, but you are equal in the larger eye of the law, which is certainly a welcome move. Geeta Luthra, always a pleasure to have you on my shows, ma'am. Raul Ishwar, Atikur Rahman, Ahmad Ayaz and Zeenat Shaukat Ali, thank you so much. There's a latest that is coming in now from the AIA-DMK battle. As the EPS versus OPS battle is before the Supreme Court, the Election Commission has filed an affidavit opposing the plea filed by EPS seeking directions to Election Commission to upload amended bylaws of the party. The Election Commission in its reply says that it does not monitor or regulate inner party functions or internal elections of a political party. Ananya is joining me on the phone line, and rightly so. Why should Election Commission get into what is clearly a battle between two factions within the AIA-DMK?
Well, definitely, Maria. This battle is intensifying. The two-leaf symbol battle, as we popularly call it, has now intensified before the topmost of the country as well. The ECI also has filed its affidavit opposing the plea filed by EPS seeking directions to the Election Commission of India to upload the amended bylaws. ECI in its reply says that it does not monitor or regulate the inner party functions. In fact, the very important point that the Election Commission of India goes on to say is that the amended bylaws, which the EPS faction is trying to get uploaded and to get amended, is under challenge before the topmost court of the country, and also before in certain litigations before the Madras High Court. And that's the reason why the ECI has, at this point of time, has not accepted the amended bylaws, which basically means that EPS is not recognized as the General Secretary of this particular AIA-DMK party. And because in the amended bylaws, he was made the General Secretary of the party and he was the sole owner in those amended bylaws. However, the two principal faction of this particular party is still continuing, according to the Election Commission of India, and has very, very clearly said that it won't be intervening into the inner party elections, because remember that not only in this but also in the Maharashtra political row, the Election Commission had refused to interfere within the Uddhav Thackeray and the Eknath Shinde camp's tussle. However, when it comes to the symbol war, then only can the Election Commission of India intervene, and for that, the Election Commission of India in this matter has said that no symbol dispute has been raised by either of the factions of the AIA-DMK, and that's the reason why the ECI is not pushing into this battle that is happening between the EPS and the OPS camp. Maria.
Thank you so much, Ananya. On that note, we'll slip into a short break after that. In fact, let's move to debate 2 now. The crisis in Pakistan continues, and amidst an economic meltdown and a 200% rise in food inflation. As the government struggles to rein in high prices, the IMF is in talks to release over $1 billion in financial aid, but has some tough conditions for the Sharif government after rejecting the circular debt management plan. The IMF has asked the government to raise the electricity tariff by over 12 rupees to restrict the losses of the cash-bleeding power sector. The international body also wants a 600 billion rupee mini budget with higher taxes as well as political parties on board for the bailout to be cleared. However, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is against tax rises and subsidies slashing, fearful of a backlash ahead of the elections which are due in October. The demand for political consensus is also a tall order, as Imran Khan is confident of making a comeback in these elections. The political drama is also escalating in Pakistan, as former Interior Minister and Imran Khan's close aide, Sheikh Rashid, has been arrested over the corruption charges, while the country is reeling under the shadow of terror, with the recent Peshawar blast claiming over 100 lives. The Tehreek-e-Taliban party has vowed more attacks against Pakistan government. So, with an economic, political and security crisis, is the Pakistan government on the brink of collapse? Let me bring in my guests now. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of ORF, Kirti Upadhyay, VP and Founder, India-US Tech Council. We also have Raja Faisal, Senior Pakistan Journalist. Mr. Sareen, do you sense it is end game for Sharif government?
You know, Maria, if it was only Sharif government, which was really facing the problem, I don't think one would have been very concerned, because governments can come and go. I think what is in crisis is now the Pakistani state itself.
Okay.
After what we are seeing in terms of how the economy is imploding, in fact, it's virtually in a meltdown situation, regardless of whether the IMF loan comes through or not. And the impact that any of those reforms and the irony is that those reforms are necessary for the economy to stabilize. But the way the reforms will play out will actually cause enormous instability and dislocation and economic distress. So how that plays out is going to create another storm in Pakistan. The politics is totally broken. In fact, you now have top political leaders openly accuse the army of trying to assassinate them, of being behind the bomb blast in Peshawar, and whatever else you can think of. So that entire political consensus which is required for a state is breaking down completely.
Okay, then
you have the terrorists on on a resurgent path, and their attacks are increasing not just in intensity but also in terms of their reach, geographically. So yes, I think it is probably the most serious crisis that Rump Pakistan has faced since 1971.
And then if it is a serious crisis indeed, then Ms. Upadhyay, do you sense that IMF demands is a bullet the Sharif government will not bite just ahead of elections, because elections are in October?
No, I think it's a very precarious situation, because as Dr. Sareen said, that the political situation is really making it worse. What Pakistan needs right now is to really cut down on its populist measures, cut down on the subsidies. I mean, those fuel and power subsidies were a major contentious issues by the IMF, and the IMF is right. You can't because with the difference between Sri Lanka and Pakistan here is exactly that Sri Lanka, it was certain events that led to it, but with Pakistan it's like recurrent these recurrent asks for debt servicing while they continue to pursue these populist measures. Secondly, there's really a double whammy. I mean, last time I was here, we were discussing how the economy has also been shut off, which is making this worse. The Pakistan experts would know better, but at least from what I'm seeing, I don't see any clear end in sight in terms of political stability. So it's really a sad situation here. And even with the economic headwinds, it's anyway hard to raise debt. But given Pakistan's situation, it's really going to be nightmarish. And I definitely don't see any political stability or things getting better anytime soon.
Raja Faisal, are you equally nihilistic, or can Pakistan find a way out for itself to get a bailout, because none of its allies are also coming to help it?
If we look at obviously the friends of Pakistan in recent past, we have seen that we have seen that Pakistan's friends, they have always helped Pakistan, but this time around, it is getting very difficult for Pakistan to get help from its friends. Number one, and number two, if we look at
And who are the friends?
IMF.
Who are the
Well,
present
I'm talking
friends?
about,
Yes.
well, obviously the friends I'm talking about, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, all of these countries, they
Okay.
used to help in
Okay. Okay.
help Pakistan in the past, and of course Americans, they always extended help. Uh, Obviously, until they were here in Afghanistan, they have been, but now they don't. If we look at IMF, of course, I would agree with Sushant. Dr. Sushant has raised an excellent point that the sort of implications it would have for people of Pakistan and Pakistan as a state, they would be dire. Why? Because IMF requires power tariffs to be increased, taxations, extra taxations to be imposed on people of Pakistan. And don't forget that people of Pakistan right now, at large, they are facing, inflation, and that inflation would be almost, doubled in that case if the taxations and tariffs are imposed on Pakistan. So these are the things, and I think there are tough times for Pakistan. Here, I would like to mention that I think timely Pakistan had to think about certain ways to get out of,
And can they really get out
these
of
kind
it?
of situations.
What do you think? Being a journalist on ground, can they get out of it?
They can, but sometimes
What
I
are the
think they
options
have
before
to.
Pakistan? What are the options before Mr. Sharif?
Well, I think right now there is a sort of a dilemma which is being faced by Pakistan as a state, and that is that we don't have political harmony, we don't have economic consensus, and then political
Okay,
consensus
so there
is
is
the
no political
required.
consensus. Sushant Sareen, you get the
There
final
is.
word. There is no economic consensus, and corruption of the Zardaris and the Sharifs have been a long, have been political points which have been discussed for years. Do you think the anger now against the political class has reached a boiling point? But there is also this army which is continuing to assert its supremacy because they realize that they are the ones who are governing Pakistan.
Maria, I think, when people keep talking about corruption, corruption is a problem, but corruption is not what has brought Pakistan to this pass. It is gross mismanagement of the sorts you can't imagine. Thinking that you can live endlessly off other people's money. The IMF, for example, the IMF program, which the Pakistanis are now cribbing about, has been agreed by the Pakistanis themselves. They agreed to all those conditions way back in 2019. Now, their modus operandi has been agree to whatever, it is there on the table, and then feel free to flout it. And now the IMF is saying that no, this way you cannot continue because after every 3 years you come back to us, you start begging for funds. Now, even if, and Maria, this is important, all the discussions right now, every discussion about where the monies will come from, the IMF package, etc., is for the next 6 months. That's till the end of June. But there's life after June. Because when the next fiscal year begins, they again have about 26 or 27 billion dollars in terms of debt which they have to pay off, apart from other requirements which they will have to meet. Where are they going to get the money from? So clearly they are not going to be able to go back to the Saudis, the Emiratis, or the Chinese for more money. The IMF package, if they go back to the IMF for a 23rd program, the IMF is going to put even more onerous conditions. Now the Pakistanis have to learn to pay their own bills. They have to learn that they cannot spend more than what they are earning, and they cannot do it endlessly and think that the world is going to come and bail them out. That's not going to happen. So the politics of it is of course a problem, but the way they've mismanaged their country is a bigger problem. Now, whether the people will rise up, Maria, and this is very interesting, the Indian subcontinent is not given to revolutions. People will crib about it. People will probably have some fights on the streets, but they don't rise up in revolt against the government of the day.
No, but we did see it in Sri Lanka.
Fervor, and there is no revolutionary leader.
We saw it in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, what did we see in Sri Lanka? You saw 3 or 4 days of unrest. People came out on the streets. Do you see that same thing happening anymore?
Okay.
No, it's all fizzled out.
Okay. Okay.
The subcontinent is not given to revolutions.
Okay, let's see what happens in Pakistan now. Sushant Sareen, thank you so much for your time. Kirti and Raja Faisal, thank you so much. We are slipping into a short break. Up next, in the wake of Budget 2023, we decode the impact with Saket Dalmia, President of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Stay with us.
In agri-tech, agricultural startups, and of course rising millet production. Again, incentivizing the farmer. Dairy, fisheries, again, water bank, which is going to be critical, which is going to be important. So revamped credit guarantee for MSMEs, another sector which is critical if you want to boost our manufacturing.
Let's listen in to the Prime Minister himself, who spoke to the media soon after the budget was presented by Nirmala Sitharaman. Let's not forget, this is the last full budget before the general elections of 2024. The Prime Minister has said that this has laid foundation for building developed India.
अमृत काल का ये पहला बजट विकसित भारत के विराट संकल्प को पूरा करने के लिए एक मजबूत नींव का निर्माण करेगा। ये बजट वंचितों को वरीयता देता है। ये बजट आज की एस्पिरेशनल सोसाइटी, गांव, गरीब, किसान, मध्यम वर्ग, सभी के सपनों को पूरा करेगा। मध्यम वर्ग के साथ खड़ी रहने वाली हमारी सरकार ने मध्यम वर्ग को टैक्स में बड़ी राहत दी है। इस सर्वस्पर्शी और विकसित भारत के निर्माण को गति देने वाले बजट के लिए मैं फिर एक बार निर्मला जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को बहुत-बहुत बधाई देता हूं।
समृद्ध, समर्थ और संपन्न भारत. These were the three pillars on which India is envisioning its road ahead till 2047. But as Nirmala Sitharaman said, 7 pillars or Saptarishi. First up, inclusive development announcements for women, SC, ST, OBCs, other underprivileged groups, along with taking care of the salaried middle class, the government employees who are going to retire, pension person, senior citizens, everybody's been spoken about. Reaching the last mile or Antyodaya, this has been a stated vision, and they want to follow the ideals of Vinoba Bhave and the likes of Deen Dayal Upadhyay and Mahatma Gandhi. So aspirational blocks program for distribution of government services. So from aspirational districts, they move to block level, where they also want to encourage government, state governments to start building unity malls where everybody can converge. Farmers, local producers can come there and sell their produce. So unity malls is something which they want to push. Capex outlay increased steeply by 33%. So this is the infrastructure and investment. That's the third pillar. The fourth pillar is unleashing the potential. National data governance policy for innovation and research for startups. This time around, very aggressively pushing agri startups. So at the rural level, encouraging entrepreneurship and a certain level of initiative. Financial sector, it looks at the MSME revamp schemes, getting an infusion of 9,000 crore plus into the entire corpus and strengthening what is going to be the driving force in our push to becoming a manufacturing economy or a nation too, along with services. 35,000 crore capital investment towards energy transition. Green growth is something which we are committed to, and like Mr. Kant and Paramayar were saying, sustainability is core to our growth, and we need to leapfrog, take that jump, and that can be done only with youth power. So the next pillar, PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0, to skill lakhs of youth with new age courses, on the job training and sector wise skilling. And this will be also part of the entire Vishwakarma initiative, where those who are doing the hard skilled labor and work, craftsmen, they will also be encouraged. So these are the 7 pillars that Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister, spoke about. Let's listen into a short excerpt of her 1 hour 25-minute long budget speech.
I propose to increase the rebate limit to 7 lakh in the new tax regime, the new personal income tax regime, with 6 income slabs starting from 2.5 lakh. I propose to change the tax structure in this regime by reducing the number of slabs to 5 and increasing the tax exemption limit to 3 lakhs. The new tax rates are 0 to 3 lakh, nil; 3 to 6 lakhs, 5%; 6 to 9 lakhs, 10%; 9 to 12 lakh, 15%; 12 to 15 lakhs, 20%; and above 15 lakhs, 30%. Mahila Samman Savings Certificate will be made available for a 2-year period up to March 2025. This will offer deposit facility up to 2 lakh in the name of a woman or girls for a tenor of 2 years at fixed interest rate of 7.5% with partial withdrawal option. The maximum deposit limit for senior citizens savings scheme will be enhanced from 15 lakh to 30 lakhs of rupees. The maximum deposit limit for monthly income account scheme will be enhanced from 4.5 lakh to 9 lakh for single account and from 9 lakh to 15 lakh for joint account. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0 will be launched to skill lakhs of youth within the next 3 years. On-job training, industry partnership, and alignment of courses with needs of industry will be emphasized.
So let's quickly look at the highlights of Budget 2023 and why we say it's Sabka Budget. It's got fiscal prudence in consideration, it's got poll considerations. So there is about the vision of Bharat in 2047, but there is also the vision of the ballot in 2024 and of course the build-up in the states. We got Zaka on the wall, not with the poll numbers, but with the budget numbers this time, and we look at all of that in detail. But let's signpost some of the salient features. The growth via higher capital spending up by 33% to 10 lakh crore rupees. It surprised everybody and the corporate world has welcomed it. Focus on fiscal prudence continues. No tax on salary up to 7 lakh rupees in the new tax regime. So it's an out and out rebate if your salary is 7 lakhs. If it is more than that, then you get into the slabs which have also been revised in the new tax regime. Tax savings for young and retired continue. Nudge to the new tax regime is very clearly evident. This capex target of 10 lakh crore is very, very important because this capital expenditure is what will solve perhaps the jobs problem, ladies and gentlemen. Is everybody happy about it? We have to wait and see whether or not everybody is happy about it. What are the other allocations and some of the other sectors that have been taken care of in this budget? Let's try and understand. The PM Awas Yojana, the outlay has been hiked by 66%. So the construction, building of homes, affordable homes for those for whom the dream of a makan, their own makan, a chhat on their head was a far distant dream. They wanted.
Welcome back. The Union Budget 2023, the final one ahead of the battle of 2024, has been a budget that has encompassed all sections of society. While the shake-up in the new tax regime has put more money in the hands of the middle class, multiple sectors and groups from agriculture and infrastructure to tribals, pensioners and women have been catered to in this budget. The economic vision has also seen unprecedented outlays for capital investment, railways, urban development, and hikes in the education and health budgets. How will these power India's economic fundamentals? Joining us on the show is Saket Dalmia, President of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Dalmia, really appreciate your time. This is the last full budget of the Modi government before the general elections of 2024. And it's not high on populism. Would you say then that this is a responsible budget, although it does give more cash in hands of the middle class, but at the same time, it has stuck to the path of fiscal prudence?
So good point, very well said. And I think, I was thinking the same when I saw the budget. The first thing came into my mind was, where is the populist element in that which is easily visible? Then I realized that the government understands that, the villager, the rural person does not want optics. They measure by what they get in hand. And the continuity of government funding, central funding into the hands of the poor, especially in the villages, continues. So that is big enough for them. When my driver tells me that if I go home, I'm going to get 3 lakh rupees to making a home for myself, a pakka house. So that kind of initiative really satiates the rural economy. But when it comes to a middle class, they want more money in their hands because they are in the tax system. And if you see that by giving those indications that, look, we are trying to give you a better starting point in terms of salary, we are shaving off the peak, satisfying the wealthy people. On the other hand, trying to do away with the capital gains benefits when they, after 10 crores, that one. So in many ways, what I think is the government has understood where they want to spend the money and where the impact should come and how they're going to be perceived. So from an optical level, they know when they announce a budget, the middle class is greatly affected and is the main, how should I say, the main target segment which they want to communicate to. There they have given excellent indication, excellent optics, and excellent measurable things for them to be happy with. At the same time, I think what the government has really done this time is have a huge impactful budget. I do not think in the recent history there has been so much interaction between government agencies, chambers, and businesses. So they have been able to really deep dive into really what are the things which will make a difference in the economy.
Saket Dalmia, the new tax regime, which will give relief to the middle class, but at the same time, the government is hoping that it will increase the spending power. But the question is, will it really boost growth? There are questions about job creation. If this substantial increase in capex will send a message that it can in somehow lead to job creation more than just fixed assets. I mean, creation. Of course, it is about fixed assets which will be created, infrastructure push that we are seeing. But what about job creation, that roadmap?
So well put. I think one thing is very sure that personal taxes initiative is not going to be a job booster. Definitely, you're 100% right there. The big spending in infrastructure, I think, is going to be a big job creator, definitely. And apart from that, I think spending in general into creating an environment which makes us more efficient as a country will increase our productivity and will eventually help businesses. So there is no knee-jerk reaction as such, as you correctly said, through financial allocation, which we're going to see a big uptake in the economy. But probably that's the point that the government wants to lay out a medium to long term plan of growth instead of just trying to show that, look, I'm going to spend here, so you'll get this.
One view certainly is that the government has come up with a roadmap, and it's an ambitious roadmap. But do they have clarity of growth? There was this cheer that we saw in the industry, but the market ended in red yesterday. Is there some confusion on how the budget will take India ahead?
Good questions, Maria. So, initial reactions is that, if you look at if I'm the government, I would like to spur demand. So one way I can spur demand is spend, which I'm doing. The other is I give more money in the hands of the consumer. We are doing. In terms of the strategy, is it long term? I think it's definitely long term. When they're talking about investing and focusing more on research and development, when they're talking about investing more in capacity building, in skilling, in agricultural initiatives where they are talking about warehousing and those things. So those are not going to give you any short-term or immediate bang for the buck. Still, they're saying, well, I'm going to go and spend this money. So definitely there is a medium to long-term vision by the government. And I don't think that they are trying to spur any kind of, initial success for themselves through the budget in terms of keeping the election in their mind. I don't think so, because I think it's been largely accepted well by the industry, especially MSMEs. Look at what they did. to make available more 2 lakh crore rupees to the MSMEs, they realized that through the ECL GS scheme, they were able to mobilize money for MSMEs. You know, we have been knocking at the RBI's doors and at all the large bankers' doors that why don't you give money to the MSMEs? They are flush with money, but they have not been giving it. Now, with the smart move of allocating money which can only be used by MSMEs to loan it, to give them as loans, they're going to mobilize more money directly into the hands of the small and the medium industry. So those are smart moves, I feel. And for the large industry, I think the most important thing is that if the government continues to spend, you're going to see cement, steel, real estate, everything continuing to go up. And with better Gati Shakti moves and infrastructure, I think, that incremental increase of investment will happen.
Saket Dalmia, my last question to you. During the pandemic, the government had announced several FDI moves. I want to understand from you, what is the response that you have got on the FDI proposal so far? And on the budget, the government certainly is hoping that the animal instinct in the industry would come out. Will it actually lead to that, or will the industry continue to be cautious because of the times that we are in? There is a war and inflationary numbers and the overall scenario of economy world over.
So the first one being international interest in India, especially regarding FDI. So, I have personally met at least 18 trade missions, international trade missions of various countries and their trade bodies. There's a huge hunger. Earlier, it was all about market access. Now, small and medium companies want to invest, set up shop in India. So, and the government's smart move of pushing them to manufacture into India for India and through India regionally or globally, that's been a smart move, because there is an appetite by these companies, especially the European ones, because their markets are drying up. They want to invest into India because they want a share of the market. So definitely a win-win in terms of FDI. We have been a part of discussions with several FTAs, which India's, in fact, the German and the Swiss FTAs, I have personally sat on certain discussions with both sides of the government. And there is a lot of movement happening there. So I think FDI will come. The government is really proactive about that. In terms of the Indian industry's animal appetite, I think it's still not there. I think one of the biggest pain points which India felt was, there was too much of criminalization which was happening on ground zero. I think the government has become sensitive to that. And we have seen our Honorable Commerce Minister, and recently even in the budget, the finance minister specifically mentioned that they have decriminalized a lot of laws. I think still some steps have to be taken for ease of doing business, because as small and large companies within India grow larger, they lose direct control over the companies. And there were certain very, very archaic laws which came, which were in excess and which created instant prosecution. So that has really deterred good industry people to say, why should I expand myself more? So that kind of a mentality. So I think that will take some time to shave off. Once that happens, their investments will come in. They want to invest. They can see the market grow. But I think they were being scared about being too aggressive because of these ease of doing business issues. As decriminalization practically starts happening on ground zero, you will see money coming back by these guys.
All right, Saket, thank you so much for your time. Of course, the budget 2023 and the final blueprint is continuing to be read by all stakeholders and, of course, the middle class as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow.
So the construction, building of homes, affordable homes for those for whom the dream of a makan, their own makan, a chhat on their head, was a far distant dream. They want to take that further. But what that does is that again generates employment, the steel industry, cement industry, and of course the labor intensive industry. 35,000 crore for green energy transition, and it's being incentivized because sustainability, green energy is one of the 7 pillars which the finance minister said Saptarishi. 2.4 lakh crore out of the 10 lakh crore is the outlay for railways. So infrastructure push continues. So they're on that path. They're staying steady and they're not deviating from it. It's perhaps the biggest ever allocation that's ever happened for railways. And then what are the other salient features that stand out? Is there something in there for the Kisan? Yes. Is skilling an important aspect that will be considered? Yes. And these pushes are over the next 3-year horizon. So they're looking beyond Lok Sabha 2024. And the Prime Minister very, very clearly said, a Samriddha, Samarth and Sampanna Bharat. That's the vision for 2047. So let's try and break up what stands out. For you and me, the salaried class, ladies and gentlemen, the highlight is tax mein kuch bachega ke liye. Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand.